revel in playing on records by people like Aretha Franklin and the Neville Brothers. You know, he never lost the fan within him. So by the 1980s, you know, World War III has broken out in the Rolling Stones between Mick and Keith, and he's still a music fan. So this is what he does. He puts himself about. You know, he's got a grip on his drug demons, so he's physically capable of doing this now, and he's up for it. And he's not getting his satisfaction in the Rolling Stones, so he looks for it elsewhere.
The diversity of the artists that Richards worked with indicated that he was still finding new sounds and new inspiration. Not only did he record with Bo Diddley, Willie Nelson, Bobby Womack and John Lee Hooker, he also worked with more avant-garde artists, including the inimitable Tom Waits.
When Keith worked with someone like Tom Waits, I mean, I think there was a real mutual admiration and respect there. These two sort of quite primitive and sort of intuitive guys with a really visceral sense of the power of music. When they came together, you know, it's no coincidence that one of the tracks they did was called That Feel.
There's one thing you can lose, and it's that feel. It's that feel you can lose, and it's that feel.
That's what it's saying, is, you know, you can lose everything, but you still have that feel. It's not specified what it is, but it's the feel in the song. It's just the power and poetry and earthiness of what guys like Richards and Waits do.
The fan in Richards was again evident with a feature film project that he had begun developing with director Taylor Hackford. Having inducted Chuck Berry as the first member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in New York in 1986, Richards chose to further celebrate his hero's work by forming the ultimate band to accompany him for 2 shows in the 60-year-old's hometown of St. Louis. Hackford filmed both the rehearsals and the performance, and Hail Hail Rock and Roll was released as both a live album and feature film in 1987.
I've been so disappointed in Chuck Berry's live gigs for years and years and years whenever I've seen him, because he didn't give a damn, you know. He just, and if he made a mistake, he'd blame it on the band, you know. I mean, and he just wing it and get through, and he's got such a powerful personality that he's managed to get away with it. I mean, I know everybody's, you know, mad to take the gig on, and no doubt they said it to you too. But so I ordered the straitjacket, allow 6 to 8 weeks for delivery, and if anybody was going to do it, I wanted it to be me. Not so much a musical director as I got an S&M director. So, social and musical director is a polite man. It's the S&M band, you know.
Making a tribute to Chuck Berry, the man to whom he probably owed more than any other single musician alive, was a labour of love for him. Even though he had absolutely no respect for Chuck Berry as a human being, he had this huge respect for his music.
I think the Chuck Berry movie is the most astonishing accomplishment, because he's not an easy man to deal with. He's a man who's used to, you know, for 5 decades having totally his own way, changing the keys of songs, switching songs. And there's a lovely moment in the concert where he's playing a song, they're in F, and he decides he wants to do it in G, and you can see him, he goes over to Keith and says, knock it up to G, and you just see Keith going, nope. And the look on Chuck Berry's face at that point, because clearly nobody has ever said no to him in his life, it's a priceless moment. It's a great movie, and he certainly gives Chuck Berry a better live band than he'd ever had before.
Richards would continue to work with other artists throughout his later career, guesting on albums by Ziggy Marley, Johnny Johnson, and in 1990 appearing on a solo album with legendary keyboardist Bernie Worrall.
You don't tell Keith Richards what to, you know, play, have fun with it, and get something get his interpretation of what he's hearing and learning at the same time, because you never expect, because you don't know what's going to happen, and you take that gift that he received and gave to you and to the others that heard it, and go with it and be thankful. He's glad to get away sometimes. And, you know, family, that's family, yeah, but enough of family, you know, 'cause families argue. So yeah, he gets to do something else, man. His head can go, he can be creative somewhere else and have new information coming in, and him giving back information and coexisting with this new entity. And he has fun.
Yet in the Stones, the rift would continue throughout the 80s. New albums, such as 1983's Undercover and 1986's Dirty Work, were released, but Jagger had now totally lost interest in the band and was more concerned with pursuing his acting career.
He phoned me up one night in '84 saying, I'm at the Savoy, come over for a drink. This wasn't to interview him, you know, this was to go and just hang out. Because, you know, Mick was doing one of his films. So what's Mick doing? He said, oh, probably dressing up like Fu Manchu or something like that. You know, there was an element of resentfulness that Mick was doing movies, and I think the straw that broke the camel's back was She's the Boss, when Mick Jagger did a solo album. Now, Keith had always said, I ain't going to do a solo album because the Stones get all my best songs, so what's the point? Then Mick did that, and that was really what galvanised Keith into doing Talk Is Cheap.
Talk Is Cheap, the first of 2 solo albums recorded by Richards, was released in October 1988. Using many of the band who had worked on the Chuck Berry project, who he named the X-Pensive Winos, and including guest appearances from ex-Stone Mick Taylor, vocalist Sarah Dash and Bernie Worrall, it was seen by many as his most significant work of the 1980s.
I know he had fun, man. I wasn't there for the whole recording of the album, but the sessions that I was there, you could see it. On his own, doing his other thing.
Talk Is Cheap, which Keith did with a little group he got together, you know, Waddy Wachtel, a few mates, and they were playing basic Keith songs, and basically it was the best Stones album for years. That was the common sort of comment in all the reviews.
Ladies and gentlemen, Keith Richards.
I did a long interview with Keith right around the time of his first solo record. You know, he had famously said he would never make a solo record because he never wanted to be in this situation of deciding, do I keep this song or do I give it to the Rolling Stones? And yeah, so the idea that he was going to make a solo record was in itself kind of significant. But I think that was important for him. You know, important for him, it's hard to think of somebody like Keith Richards as needing confidence, but I think it really did get his confidence up. You know, the way that earlier projects like doing the Chuck Berry movie, doing Hail, Hail, Rock and Roll, you know, re-encountering somebody, you know, working with someone like Aretha Franklin, I think getting his own band together and taking it out on the road meant a lot to him.